get wrist surgery. Was it? Oh my
That was
goodness.
me.
That's that it just came back to me, and it's like we've had casts, we've had, people. I know there was another eye dilation thing. So, but I told her, right now she just looks like no more flash photography, please.
Please,
I,
only
what
photos.
can I
Yeah.
say? Red carpet treatment, etc. I'm enjoying that you are doing this, because I've had people on who are just like, I thought I was better this week, and I'm just, you don't have to be here. This is thrilling. There is actually, who else said, okay, this is roll call. You ready? Just wave your hand when I say your name. Lori LeBay, are you here?
Yep.
Okay, great. Angie Gray. Yep. Okay, Ryan Hurd. There he is. Okay, I used to be a teacher. Okay, I know who it is, because Jack Cumming, you've been smiling on the screen since the beginning. So Rosalind went out one more time. I do know that I have sunglasses on, but it is funny to my kids when I go, just a second, before we go outside, I need to find, where did I put my sunglasses? And they're either here
Yeah.
or up here,
Or on your head.
or
Yeah.
wait a minute, I need to find, oh, I thought this was my phone. And it has zero to do with my number of birthdays, and everything to do with focusing. Scott tried to give me my mail that I didn't see yesterday, because I had the opportunity to go visit my mom, and the traffic was there and back. So it was extra hours. And I'm like, nope, I can only focus on one thing. I have a reunion of people today that, if you have an update of any sort that you want to share, I'm excited about that. I too have updates. So, because I keep hearing suggestions and I go, yeah, I want to do that too. So I'm hoping that you're even more professional than me, and that you're like, we've already got it in the works. And I need to ask, do any of you need do you have a commitment that might take you out partway through this hour? Raise of hands again, I guess.
Nope.
No.
I might just
Yeah.
have my phone beside me, so forgive me for that if I have it on vibrate, but I just have a friend who's had an emergency today, so I may need to tend to her. But other than that, I'm good.
Thank you. Yes, completely. That's so important. It's more important than this. I want this to happen, but family, professional emergencies. I remember one person come in 2022, was on the screen waiting their turn, and had to get going because they were in their office, and a person needed them. And so they came back again another week, and I felt kind of bad that I didn't get around to saying, hey, what's going on? But I also thought, that's the kind of people that come to the show. They've got an important impact on life, and they need to get back to it. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. I'll put these back on. And Angie, because you've got that right next to you. Angie, what's happening? I'm thinking that you haven't kicked back in the last few months.
Well, first of all, I apologize. Can you guys even see my face? I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
Yeah, but you've got a beautiful backyard too, so it kind of fades in and out. You are fine. And we know, everyone knows what it's like to go to the eye doctor. So, that's what I said. I would wear some
Not
too.
perfect, right? And I might try to throw my glasses on and see what we can do. I wouldn't be able to see you guys either way, but maybe it'll be better. But anyway, let me just try here, see what these do. Well, I can see you better a little bit. Yeah. So I'll try maybe backing up a little bit. But hi, thank you for your grace. So the question was what? what's gone on since last time?
Yeah. In fact, if you repeat what happened last time, it's probably going to be news to some of the people here.
Okay. Yeah. I think what I just shared last time was just, I'm a corporate nurse leadership trainer. And my primary focus is on communication and relationship skills as a retention strategy. And, there's lots more there, but yeah, my very first big partnership / contract was through COVID. So that was like, what's the thing by fire? Trial by fire. Is that a saying? Yeah. Yeah.
It
So,
is. If
so
it wasn't, it is.
yeah, it is now.
Now.
I'm terrible with sayings, but anywho, that was my first experience, and I knew that was a great experience because it was super evident that I was on the right track of, really focusing on the life skills that we don't even get taught as children. So if I can help people in that space in healthcare is my niche, but if I can help people in that space with skills that also apply to their home life, that's really where my heart is. So so that's been going great. Healthcare is, I don't know how many of you on this panel are in healthcare, but as a former nurse myself, it definitely has its challenges, but I really feel that there is a shift, and I'm hopeful and prayerful that those forward-thinking leaders continue to come forward and focus on the things that will actually cause and forge the meaningful, lasting change, the humanity back into healthcare. So I am very hopeful. There's a lot of amazing leaders that are showing up. So that part's amazing, going well. And you know what I want to say? This is what just came to me. I'm like, oh, okay. This morning I had 2 meetings. I had a meeting yesterday and a meeting this morning with 2 young men that are doing kind of different things, but they're trying to serve their community by bringing leadership together, and a cool concept. But I just wanted to say that what we're doing here as maybe not 20-year-olds on this panel, and I don't even know what you guys do, but because you're on Christine's podcast, I know you're doing amazing things. Man, I always say this, but it was really evident to me today again that, we're always teaching. But man, I learned so much from these young men, and it's so hopeful. Our future is so hopeful. And so whatever we're doing, as long as there's a purpose and it's grounded in humanity, we just got to keep doing what we're doing, because these young people are really, really amazing. So I just had a great meeting, very hopeful, a lot of connections, and that was cool. So yeah.
We do get hopeful when we see even what I would call a small child. They have so little life experience, but they seem to exude wisdom. They seem to be taking in and already, connecting dots. I'll just say, this happened, and it seems to be the result of that. And that's a problem. So let's not do that anymore. And it's like, everyone listen to the 5.5-year-old, listen to the 20-year-old, listen to, I was watching a show earlier today and heard someone proudly announce that they were 65, and then later on do what I used to do and say, I'm sorry if I'm assuming that everyone else is, in my age category, and I thought, I used to do that. I used to apologize that I was using maybe, I won't say old fashioned, I'll say tried and true, long, um, uh, verbiage with longevity or something like that. And I'm just like, no more. And then I sink back into it again every once in a while. But Angie, you said, I feel like there's a shift. I feel a shift coming. And it's probably because you are pushing it, of bringing humanity back into healthcare, of retaining people. And I could quote all sorts of different shows where I've heard the same thing. People are like, I want to help that happen. I'm providing this solution. I found someone else and we speak the same language. I often say, you're both singing harmony to the same song, which just makes it more something you want to listen to. It's like, I've been hearing that a lot. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe I need to get on board with checking out resources ahead of time that might mitigate some of the challenges that sometimes accompany aging or might accompany the aging process of someone that I care about. And I'm like, why isn't there a solution for this? Wouldn't that be great if I knew it ahead of time?
Hey,
So,
Christine, I don't want to take any more people's time, but I just want to say what you just said and see if anybody has anything to say about that going forward. But you just hit the nail on the head. Like if I was going to admit my mom, who's 76, that she's not ready yet, but at some point in time, if she heads that way to an organization, a nursing home facility or a senior care facility, definitely that is something that we all should keep in mind. Like, what are they doing to care for their nurses? Because that's going to reflect on the health and wellness and how they treat their patients. So that's just something maybe we can talk about later, but that is part of, that is what I do. And that is the hope. But as people that have people that we love that will be there as well as ourselves, that is something we absolutely should be looking at. But anyway, that's it.
well, I'll
I agree
switch
with
over
you.
because you did. Who agrees with her?
I agree with her, and I'd like to build upon that as well, because if you have to work on yourself before you can work on others, and especially for the caregiving community, being a caregiver is extremely stressful. So how do we take care of ourselves? And it could be through meditation, it could be through time off, it could be through a walk, a run, something physical. But if you can't de-stress yourself and take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of your aging loved one, or be a nurse, or be the best person you can be. So I totally agree with what you're saying, Angie.
Yeah, I would say, you said, Christine, you mentioned to talk about what has changed a little bit from the last time we were on the show. And I really have changed my focus. I've been doing my work since 2009, and I've been working directly with caregivers, educating them to use a journal as a source of self-care and stress management. And I published a book recently, and what I've been focusing on is care communities rather than caregivers directly, because I think that, yes, I do see that there's a very slow shift happening in the long-term care environment, but it's really slow. And one of the things that I think is so very, very, very important is the emotional piece to the professionals in that environment. And too many leaders try to get nurses, professional caregivers to disassociate the emotional piece. Remember, this is your job. Remember, don't get attached. But first of all, it's so hard to care for somebody for a year or 2 years and give them good care without being emotionally attached, right? And if you think about, there's so many people that we care for that remind us of our grandma or our parent or whatever. So to stay disconnected emotionally is just the wrong avenue for leadership. It's like, tap into that emotion and identify, excuse me, what it is about that person, what it is that you're dealing with. A lot of times it can be a negative emotion. That's okay. Just identify it and deal with it. And then you're able to continue to move on. And there's so much loss and grief for professionals in this field that we just really ignore. Yes. And I think that's just a shame. And Lori, I think that you see that with Alzheimer's, and I think we all see it, the professionals involved in helping us as caregivers care for those we love.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Yes.
No, I'm not a professional. So I may be a little out of place here, but I'm listening to what you're saying. And by the way, I'm 86, so a little older than 65. It's always fun when you're 86 to hear 65 declare themselves old. And I'd remind you that we're all one generation. If we're all alive at the same time, going through the same journey, we're all one generation. And we look for differentiation because we want to make ourselves important. But really, we're all part of a whole. And that's a positive thing. So I was listening to this, you talking about some people counsel detaching yourself emotionally. We don't ask mothers to detach themselves from their babies. Now, if aging is the reverse of that infantile journey, why do we use this strange term caregiver for the people who care for the older people and not for those who care for their babies? When I was a child, there were still a lot of people who lived on farms. I remember going to visit uh, cousin Charlie Armstrong, lived on a farm, and he was 98 years old, and he was near death, and I was like 5 years old. So I remember seeing his great white mane against the white pillows and the bed that. But the family loved caring for him because he was a beautiful person. We've institutionalized old age and made it abhorrent as a result, something to be dreaded. I can tell you, as an older person, it's not something to be dreaded because it's very liberating. The worst that can happen if I get life imprisonment is that I may be there for 4 more years and I get free long term care. That's not bad. So, I can do anything I want now and get away with it, but I don't because I value life. And there are some people who maybe wouldn't be missed, but we want to spare them. So listening to you all talk from within the industry from which you draw a livelihood is a different experience from the experience of those of us who are aging ourselves and dealing with all that it means. And we all know that aging doesn't end well. So, as wonderful as old age may be, and as exceptional it may be that there are some people 100 years old who seem to run marathons and do miraculous things, all we do by publicizing that stuff is to intimidate the rest of us who are not equal. And we create this gap between those people who have some kind of a disability or limitation and the rest of us who can go around feeling superior. And that's not a desirable thing. So I just think we need to change the whole dynamic of this human experience to bring back the kind of integration that we had in a more pastoral age when unit families, the idealized family, lived together on a farm. Everybody had chores, everybody had a role, everybody had purpose, everybody had meaning. Nobody was put away and warehoused in some kind of facility. They all had meaning in their lives. Some of them were more daft than others. There's always crazy Uncle George who shows up for Thanksgiving. You know all about him. So I just would call us all back to our shared humanity. And as for progress, Christine, I have no idea how you stumbled across me or why I was on before, so I can't tell you what's happened then. If you remind me what I said then, I'll be able to help you with that.
Oh my goodness. I have to go back to my own Aging Better Network, live stream videos and go, who was that? Who had the wrist surgery? What was going on? Those two people, they were talking about ADA. That's right, ADA in Scotland, or kind of a thing. I have to go back, and that's good. I like seeing all of you again, and that's probably why I've called for reunions. Like, I like seeing you again. I want to know if anything's changed, if you've finished a chapter of a book that you're writing, if you were asked to come onto a larger platform with an innovation. If you met someone the other day and said, You're 20 years old. I have so much to learn from you. An amazing thing to, like Jack says, we are this generation. We are a piece of history in the future that someone's going to say, yeah, all those people, all the historical records, people talking about post COVID and after shutdowns and the good and the bad, boy, it really impacted them. It was, it was a germ, it was a virus, whatever. But man, it really impacted people and gave them, impetus to make, everything just a little better or a little different, or I don't know. We'll see in the future. I'll, ask my grandkids what they think of this, our generation. Rosalind, you came onto the screen.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, you're perfect. Your
I'm
mouth
perfect
and
now.
your sound are
And
together.
I'll tell my mom I'm perfect now.
That's right. Christine said so.
So many years. I was just listening to some of the panelists. Great conversation. And I wanted to add, especially seeing what I see with my clients as an executive coach and leadership and transition coach, I do get older workers. So I wanted to look to see what the trend was in that demographic. And this is what I came up with. We are going to have 41 million older workers that are 55 and older by 2024. And out of those 41 million, there are going to be 13 that are 65 and older. And between 75 and older, I'm just going to just keep it up there. That is actually an increasing demographic.
Wow.
So what does that say? That we're not done. We're really not done. And a lot of the time that we see older workers in the workplace, it's a lot of mentorship. We have a whole lot of wisdom to impart with the younger workers. I do have a client who had so many relationships in this niche that he was in, and he had so much information that he was hired because of that. They needed someone to teach the younger group how to do something that he only knew, and that there were workers that were less and less of the stuff that he knew. So that says a whole lot. So I don't think we're going anywhere.
I think we're going to change. Don't you think we're absolutely going to change? I don't think work in the future is going to be the same. Already, it's changing. I was thinking of, Christine was alluding to how the pandemic changed things, and I was thinking of go back and study how the Black Death changed things. It certainly was a much more horrific pandemic than the current COVID has proven to be. But the change was a tremendous. And I think we're already seeing the nature of work change. People aren't looking for jobs. They're looking for meaning and purpose. Then that's going to change the culture 100%. Those with the vision to see how to capitalize on that are going to find great success. There are always winners in every time period. So I think the pandemic opened up a welcoming of change, and a need for change, a recognition that change is coming. I think it's going to come very quickly. I think that this decade is going to be a decade of change.
And I'd like to add, Jack, yes, there are factors other than purpose that people have to go back into the workforce, such as Social Security benefits and retirement benefits. However, the people that I've had in my roster, they're not done. They're looking for more purpose. They have much more to impart. So yes, those are other things that are surrounding them, but that is not the main reason.
And
So
also,
yes,
people shouldn't go back into the workforce just for Ben. We shouldn't structure our society. So why is it that you have to have a job to get health care? That's just wrong. And there are certain things that are just absolutely wrong that we can see. They're so self-evident. You say, why doesn't our political leadership change them? And that's one of the big quandaries for the boomer generation, because they came on to the adult stage as changers. They were going to make the world work better. And how's that working out now that they're in the seats of power? I think we really need to rethink what the mission and purpose of that generation is and what leadership that our country needs and that our world needs to perform better.
I agree with you very much. And it's been interesting listening to everyone. I came into the Alzheimer's and dementia space because I wanted to shift caregiving from crisis to comfort, but really it's our whole world. It's the government, it's education, it's any sector, the workforce. And we talked about purpose, Rosalind and Jack especially, really bringing that up. And it is much more, it is much more than just the workforce. It's in everyday life. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have is that we have become a society of labels. And labels creates barriers and it makes us different instead of being all inclusive. And I'll just give an example of what happened in dementia. Everyone knew Alzheimer's, the Alzheimer's Association, which is a great association, but there are a lot of other different types of dementia. And it took one man over in the UK, Norms McNamara, to say, you know what, we are all much more alike than different with dementias. And he created a symbol called the purple angel that he gave away freely for businesses and individuals to be able to use just to start the conversation of the big topic of what is dementia, because everyone's like, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Well, there's Lewy body, there's this, there's that. We don't even know how many different types of dementias there actually are out there. And some people have multiples, but it's not, this isn't a scorecard. And that's what it's become in our society is these labels have become a scorecard and they are used against people. And that is just so sad to me. Lori was talking about getting back to the emotions and engagement and the social support. And wouldn't it be sweet if there were prescriptions for social support instead of just the pill? They're gaining much more evidence of what a difference this is making in people's life because they now feel purposeful. They now feel connected. And yet that is poo-pooed. And we are in life, basically a living lab, and we're not tapping into that. We're not really analyzing that as a whole. So I think the other piece, when it comes to aging especially, is evaluating risk factors. Oh, you're this age, you can't be doing that anymore, or you shouldn't be doing that, or because one person got into a car accident at this age, nobody over this age should be driving anymore. I mean, that's asinine. But
Right.
but we categorize things out there. And so I just think there's so many different ways to approach. And I personally don't think we can make sustainable change if we don't get back to being a country and a society and a world of inclusion. I think this is just ripping us to shreds. And we are lacking empathy. We are lacking the ability to communicate on a one-to-one. I mean, I know our kids are going to have thumb replacements from texting. They get nervous having eye contact with anyone. I mean, basic social skills have gone. And we need to incorporate that back into our school system. So one of the new things that I'm working on is, in February, we launched a book called Betty the Bald Chicken, Lessons in How to Care. And it's really tailored to anybody who doesn't feel like they fit in. And it's got questions for the conversation of care. How do you want to be cared for? How can someone help you? How can you help somebody else? And, we have to stop feeling like snitches. If we are concerned and tell somebody else about something, this isn't tattling. This is life-saving stuff that is occurring. This can be fulfilling. It all depends on our approach. And all of our approaches have gotten, I don't know, they've just gotten bombshelled, it seems like. And everyone's twisting and turning what help looks like and how do we receive that. We're all supposed to be independent and do it on our own, and none of us function well alone. I don't care how introverted you are. We all need one another.
Ryan, you're not, do you consider yourself an introvert?
Yes, I'm very shy.
Okay, and then he laughs because some people are like, I'm energized by being away from people. I have to have my go away time, or something. And when I see pictures of you, Ryan, I see you interacting with people. It doesn't seem like you're just, off over here. Sure, take my picture. Go. It's like I can't get a picture of his face because he's always talking with people. I will simply say that my husband, who produces this, makes it actually happen, forced me into doing this. And I am an extrovert, but this was way beyond, it was, way beyond what I thought I could do. And then I realized that each and every one of you, everyone who sees this in replay, is just one person. If I address an entire audience, it really is one pair of ears, one heart, one mind that is taking in that information at a time. And I was like, okay, totally worth it. Things that you are all providing. I'm going to tell you what it has transpired over the last few months for me. And I know my husband's got it queued up, ready to put on the bottom of the screen. He said, you should have a conference. And because I love going to them, I love that interaction time. I want to be hard to photograph my face because I'm turning and going, oh, I see what you mean. What have you got there? Lori, Betty the Bald Chicken. Oh, she sent it to me. It's like, I want to know what, a bald chicken would probably feel self-conscious. So anyway, he said, you should just make a conference happen, and you should do it in 2024. And he's right. But I decided that I'm going to do it in 2023. I'm going to do the right thing in 2023 so that I can do that thing right in 2024. And people that are more local, I'm in the state of Oregon, and I've asked them, will you come and speak? And, and people are just like, yes. And I'm like, can we hold it here? And someone said, oh, yes, because we're going to be doing a conference just before that one. I'm like, great. Can I watch what you do so that I can learn? So I'm just going to do the right thing. And then next year I will do the thing right. So it is simply convergence-experience.com. We've just put together the landing page, and then I'm going to get the faces of the speakers on there, and I'm just going to keep advancing toward October. And my intention, it was to grab students that are 10 minutes away in gerontology and have them come. Obviously, anyone else who wants to come too, to just talk on those awkward topics that are usually about aging, that people, the shun, you were talking about, the labeling or whatever. It's like, that's not polite conversation, or that doesn't make me feel excited about the future. And it's like, it's exciting to be prepared, because people don't say, boy, I really regret being well prepared for this situation that was either going to happen to me or to someone that is important to me. It's, did I have to have all those resources, and did I have to know the best, my own choice of best, to deal with people who are looking and going, you look like you should be relaxing and retiring. And, how do I respond to that? How do I include those people, because they are basing that upon maybe one or two experiences? And how do I help them to see something new? You're all giving me courage to give this a try. So I ran out to the park. We're in an apartment, and I ran out to the park because I saw 4 yellow buses in the parking lot. And so I'm just out there with my dog, and I went to the Fringe Kids. They were 7th graders. It was the 7th grade field trip. And I went to the Fringe Kids because I noticed there were some adults over there, and I didn't want to scare anyone with my extrovertedness. And I thought, these young people are also reachable, and also they already are doing some sort of caregiving. They are choosing not to make fun of someone else. They are choosing to be with that, cousin with the hair on the pillow, and not shunning them. And I was like, is there an age that someone shouldn't come to something called a convergence experience and have the opportunity to ask someone like yourselves that have background, research, daily experiences, piles of wisdom, a product that fixes that challenge? Why wouldn't I just tell the school districts, bring the kids, just make sure they're registered. Anyone who's interested in health, interested in entertainment, all the things that I'm going to be asking for in the future. So I'm going to stop with one thing, and that is, if you are a person who's listening, if you are 30 years old and your goal is to get enough money so that you can retire, so you don't have to do anything anymore by age 45 or 55, you're already more than halfway there. It's like, here's a shift. Listen to these people and go, wow, what do I want to be doing when I'm 86? How do I want to be on a show? Do I want to talk about a shift that I see coming in the future, because I have enough decades behind me that I've kind of got the feel of this wave, that I'm hopping on to the surfboard of the next wave. I've got a lot of experience seeing trends. Oh my goodness, start thinking what I'm going to do when I'm 86 or beyond. So instead of, I'm going to have enough and I'm just going to be done at 50. And it's like, she said it. They are not done. We are not done. So anyway, Ryan, do you have anything new? I'm making people talk to each other in October. What are you doing?
Well, number one, congratulations. I think that's great. The convergence experience, count me in. I will absolutely be there. I think that's phenomenal. And to build upon actually what Jack and Lori were saying, I moonlight as a politician in a small town in New Jersey. But that's actually where it starts, right? Because in our town, we are very, we advocate for our seniors. And that's everything from senior housing, that's to transportation, that's engagement. And we make a decided decision to engage these people. Whether it's our senior house, whether it's Senior Olympics, and we're a tiny town, we're 7 square miles, 15,500 people. Wow. But if we can do it.
What's the name of
Pardon
your
me?
town? What's the name of
The township of Pequannock, which is the best town in northern New Jersey. It's actually, we predate America. We go back to the 1600s. But it is really amazing because if we can do it, really any town can do it. And then number two, to answer your question, Christine, we actually, as a company that's really focusing on caregiver stress, and how can I give you a little bit more peace of mind, we kind of unearthed something that I wasn't even thinking about. I'm sure everybody here gets it, but I wasn't thinking in that way. And that's, yes, COVID was bad. COVID has changed the world in so many ways. But in one way that I never realized is, if you're home for 2 years or even 3 years at this point, you had the luxury of taking care of somebody. It was just easier. But now when companies are requiring you to come back to work, what do we do about mom, dad, grandma? And that kind of made me think, and I started realizing within employers and employees, we have to do a better job. And the way that I kind of think about this is, back in the 60s in women's lib, and it was great. And we had women come into the workforce, and for the company, they literally got double the amount of labor overnight. But very quickly, companies realized that, oh my gosh, we're having babies. What do we do now? And they kind of scurried, because when they onboard people and you have good people and you have Mary and Judy and everybody else, you don't want to lose them. So they kind of figured out, how do we keep these amazing people? And they started offering childcare and flex time and all these things. Well, now we're kind of on the other side of that bookend. And instead of talking about our young kids, we're talking about our wonderful moms or grandmas or aunts. And back to your point, Jack, what are we going to do to start taking our care of our aging loved ones? How do I give mom that independence and dignity that she deserves, and yet have a little more peace of mind? So what can companies do other than flex time? Flex time is great. I think that should be mandatory. If I've got to go and pick mom up and bring her to a 2:00 appointment, like, let me just bang it out, and everybody will be happy. I'll be a little less stressed. I can focus on work. But you're right. We do have to do a better job. And I think that's one of the things that was also uncovered by COVID.
I agree 100%. I think the answer to your question, what are we going to do? The American people are very resilient. So we all come together to try to figure it out. One thing that you touched on is we don't like the idea of a controlling boss forcing us back into a workplace that we don't need to be in. Now, there's sometimes when you do have to be in a certain place to deliver the service that you do.
Right.
And I think we understand that. And you mentioned flex time, the gig economy. There are evolving technologies that allow even flexibility in that area. But the idea that the CEO of Amazon wants everybody to go back to work in an office and in cubicles because that makes him feel important. He can walk the halls and see all these wonderful people are dependent on him. That's a false ideology. And and after COVID, people just see through that and they're saying, the heck with it. Now, not everybody, and change takes a long time. But I have great faith in the resilience of the American people. If we can keep our liberties and our freedom to go out on our own, to freelance, to do all the things that have allowed this country to become the land of opportunity, we'll do just fine. At the municipal level, where you're talking in Pequannock, by the way, I grew up in New Jersey and went to college in New Jersey, so that's why I was guessing.
All right.
Well, I was born in South Orange, which had no hospitals. Okay. So that meant I was born in a house. And I went to high school in Summit, and I went to college at Princeton. So I know New Jersey pretty well. And but thinking about this whole thing of where work is going, obviously it's changing. People want the fulfillment that they used to have in that more adaptable farm life of long ago. We didn't say, well, grandma, the term used to be senile. I don't know what happened to that. And then we went to dementia, which is worse. So I'd rather be senile because that has a little bit of like senator in it or wisdom. So maybe you can get something. But when Alzheimer's Lori was talking, I was thinking of Farrah Gold McLaughlin. I hope you all know her story. She's very public in this industry. Farrah was diagnosed with dementia. She knew the industry so well that she chose a place she really liked on the bay in San Francisco, and she moved in there, and she was prepared to stay there and die, as was her want. But because she'd moved from Arizona to San Francisco, she got to go to the University of California, San Francisco medical doctors. And if you don't know, UCSF is the only university in the California system that has no undergraduates. It's only basically a medical school. So they were super, and they checked whether she really had the frontotemporal dementia that she'd been diagnosed with that was going to lead to her death. And they found that what she was having was a storm of epileptic seizures, and they treated the epilepsy, and she's back at work, and she's again a leader in senior housing, and she's doing just fine. And so I think we have to, we often overdiagnose. We sometimes promote the disability with the medications we give. We have very few geriatric physicians who really come in and screen your medicines, much less have a clinical pharmacologist who's really trained to make sure that you're not getting detriment. I see so many people come in and they're put into memory care, and all they have is a UTI that needs to be treated. We've got to do better. It starts at the municipal level, and it starts with secondary education. We don't educate people anymore. We've got to fix ourselves.
I want to hear seventh graders saying, when I grow up, I want to be a geriatric doctor because I want to discover what can be done so that someone can continue and get their fourth, fifth, and sixth act going. You know, it's like,
So I have a couple things to add on that, because I think there were some really important, valuable pieces that you just mentioned. One of the trends that I am seeing right now that sort of scares me around a lot of the advancement that's gone on. I mean, there's so much education now about dementias, about Alzheimer's, about Lewy body, about frontal temporal, and there's a lot of technology that has come out to help caregivers, right? Like apps and you know. Places to log your medications and places, you know, like cameras that you can put in the home so you can go to work and you can see what your loved one is doing. And so a couple of those trends, though, worry me a little bit about the invasiveness of some of those trends. I mean, I'm 65. I have had the conversation with my children about, you know, let's keep in touch and keep our tabs on things, but that's so extremely invasive. And I'm on a couple of Facebook groups that are caregivers involved, because I did a lot of work with family caregivers, and I there's a trend recently to, you know, my loved one is starting to, you know, forget this or that. Where do I put them? What do I do? You know, how can that frightens me, number one. It's like there's such a rush to how quickly can we put someone in a long-term, like, do we start at a 55 plus and then do we move to this and do we move to that and whatever. I'm Hispanic. And one of the things that I hope you will touch on in your Convergence conference, Christine, is the difference in cultural, right? How cultures take different care of their loved ones. I moved 1,200 miles back home to care for my parents when my mother, who was the caregiver to my dad, who was on dialysis, survived a massive stroke. There was no question What do we do with mom? Someone's coming home to take care of them. That's what we do, right? In a Hispanic family. And we found our way. Now, were there challenges? Absolutely. Did I need more assistance as a caregiver? Absolutely. Were there a lack of resources? Absolutely. But there is a difference in how cultural communities care for their aging and their youth.
I'd like to add, Lori, there's a difference also in not just cultural, but in states.
Yes.
The resources that you can get, because the resources that you can get in California are very different than you can get in, let's say, Arizona, or I'm in Florida. Very different.
Right. I'm in Colorado. And I think most states have some sort of resources. It's the communication. Right. Yeah, but it's also the communication. I sat in, once I became involved as a caregiving, quotes, expert, I was on different boards and different foundations, and I came from a pretty upper middle class, socioeconomic, well-educated family. And I sat in these meetings going, I could have gotten that. I could have had someone help me with this. I could have, it's like there are resources.
My mom is 86 years old and she lives in New York and I live here. And I am comparing the resources in both states, and hands down, New York has a much better access to resources.
Wow.
And now I haven't done a thorough research, but from what I am seeing here, it's very different. So she's hanging on to her independence, and she's still strong. And I love her to death. Of course, I always want to be with her. However, there's going to probably come a point where, that's going to have to change. So I am starting to prepare now, for that. And, thinking what are going to be the options. Of course, first option is going to be with me. So it's like, there's the option and that's the other option.
Well, Lori made a good point about being on these boards and going, gosh, I would have liked to have known about that. And the funny thing is most government and large organizations think everything's easily accessible because they know how to find it. But I hear repeatedly from people, I gave up. I found it once, I didn't write it down, I can't find it again. And you go to these massive sites and it's just overwhelming. I mean, that's one of the reasons Dave Weidrich and I created Dementia Map, which is just dementia and caregiving resources, but it's open to all different types of resources. Of course, we vet them to make sure it's not scams and things like that. But, it's profit, nonprofit, and government agencies all welcomed on one site. But we're also not putting people in and buying lists because, as we mentioned earlier, with all the staff shortages and dead links, that makes it more frustrating for people. But I've tried to get larger organizations and government agencies to say, if you don't want to list your whole site, that's fine. I would actually prefer you put in Meals on Wheels, you put in veterans benefits, so that people can find it, because every single one of us here have a different layout for our websites and how to maneuver and how to search. And these big things are very, very complicated. I mean, I remember in starting out probably 5 years ago when we were looking at doing a resource directory, some of the tech guys I was working with, they actually searched hospitals for the word Alzheimer's and nothing popped up. Now, how asinine is that? It's like, you're trying to find a doctor. You might not know that they're called a neurologist, or that you need a geriatrician. You don't know those words yet because you haven't had to learn them. And so it gets to real basics in terms of looking at things from an end user. What is powerful? And I wanted to add one other thing too, and this goes back a ways when you were talking about extrovert and introverts. people see me as an extrovert too, but I am one of those where I love my downtime. Just shut me off. I don't need to talk to a soul. I don't need to be connected on any level, and I will be peachy, and I will come back bigger and stronger and better, after that downtime. But I think one of the things that we don't look at, again, goes back to labels. Why is somebody an extrovert? Usually there's a reason. And it could be purpose. It could be that they feel inferior, but they're trying to stage a different presence. And same with an introvert. Some people have been told they don't fit in. And so they become a wallflower. So again, it gets back to some of this labeling and,
and education, just like Jack said, educating even the seventh graders. Because I have a 12-year-old as of yesterday who's going into seventh grade, and I have been educating him on how to treat people with that kind of empathy. So if you start very young, by that time, hopefully they'll have encompassed all of that, empathy and compassion. Because as I've said before, we do need the empathy, which is the inactive piece of that. And then we need the compassion part, which is the active part of the thank you. In other words, I feel for you. That's the empathy part. And when we say, what can I do for you to make this easier for you? That's the compassion part. So we need those two pieces, not just one.
Yeah, I've gone into the schools before, and I've done things on aging and illness, and we roll into suicide and not fitting in. I mean, we roll into everything. But one of the most interesting pieces, and I make it a very interactive thing, is I have, and I've done this basically with junior high and high school students, and it's been really fun. I take a whiteboard and I go, okay, describe an elder for me. I want to know what they look like, what they do, what do they smell like, what do they wear, what are their hobbies. I mean, we just list it all out on the board. And then I said, okay, now I want you to switch gears, and I want you to be that elder, and I want you to describe a teenager. And so they write down all this, I'm writing down all this negative stuff, that they don't trust us. They're scared of us. They don't like our music. They don't like our clothes. They think we drive too fast. Da, 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 da. And then I look at them and I go, do you think what you projected the elders think about you is correct? And they all go, no. And I said, so now let's look at your list. Do you think that's accurate? And their mouths just drop, because nobody takes time to just sort it out and realize, why don't we just talk to somebody? And really reaching in that depth. So there's lots of fun, simple things we can do with all ages. And sometimes we have to do that with adults too, because we get locked in just as easily with things. But it can be really simple, fun, amazing, profound things that shift somebody's mindset to one of the heart sets.
I think that's a great idea if we can start getting that into our school systems, because as you were saying before, navigating the landscape of what's available to our aging loved ones as a resource. I know in New Jersey, you've got local municipality, then you have counties, then you have the state. Each group has its own things, and then you have for-profit, nonprofit, then you have federal. I mean, it's a mess. It's hard to navigate for those that are in the know. Can you imagine somebody that just can't do it? And then the other Lori too, to build on you when we talk about technology, you're absolutely right. There is appropriate technology, and then there is non-appropriate technology. And I think camera is one of those things that I think it's great for outside. I think it's great for a video doorbell to give mom the ability to see who's on the other side of that door. It gives safety and security. But as far as inside, whether it's listening devices or cameras, I just don't think that's I think it's an invasion of privacy. I just don't think that it's the appropriate use of technology. And then lastly, it's something I've really been thinking about a lot. And you know what is this all about? Everything that we're doing, whether I'm in technology, whether it's nurse, anything that we are doing, what is it all really about? It's about It's about our loved ones. It's about caring for them, right? It's about empathy. It's about understanding, putting ourselves in their shoes. But at the end of the day, if you were to put it all into one word, I really think that word is living. It's not about aging. It's about living. It's how do I keep my mom, my grandma, my dad, my aunt around for as long as possible? How do I give them the quality of life? How do I give them the independence? Because, 70 years ago, when they got the keys to that car and they went on their first ride without anybody, they tasted that sweet independence. And now, 70 years later, we're trying to say, hey, grandma, can I get the keys back? So it's all about living, not aging.
Oh, time is up.
Oh, darn.
And honestly, I could have changed the punctuation. I'm sorry that time is up. What? Why doesn't this go on and on and on? I have done 2-hour shows and they feel the same, fulfilling. Could you please, starting with Ryan, just give us the best way to contact you? Because we are a person who's listened to this in replay and we're just like, but how do I get him? I mean, maybe there's 5 Ryan Hurds and I'm not sure which one is this guy anymore or whatever. If you could just each give us a way to contact you. Ryan, you're first.
All right. Since we're on LinkedIn right now, you can hit me up at LinkedIn. I am Ryan Hurd, not the famous guy. I'm Ryan Hurd, the smart guy. Or you can check us out at caregiversmartsolutions.com.
Caregiversmartsolutions.com. Okay, Lori LeBay.
On LinkedIn, Lori LeBay. Otherwise, just go to my website, alzheimersspeaks.com, and there you can find a lot of free educational resources as well.
Yay. Lori LeMasters.
Okay, on LinkedIn, also Lori LeMasters. I have a website, carepartnersresource.com, and you can reach me there, and that's also where you can check out about my book. It's called You're a Caregiver, Not a Saint. Yeah, right. W-R-I-T-E.
Right. W-R-I-T-E. Yes. Yeah. There we go. Lori LeBay, if you have your book, you can show it too.
Yeah,
over to Jack Cumming.
Well, I can be reached on LinkedIn, and also I suppose the easiest place to reach me, I write often for Senior Living Foresight, and I hope you all subscribe to that. And they are having a virtual conference coming up, Evolve, which is for life enrichment, because the whole purpose of what we've discussed today is to enrich the lives of people. And so life enrichment is central. That's the theme of their conference. And I recommend that highly. It's seniorlivingforesight.net.
Yes, .net. And they're having a whole segment on Evolve, which costs $139. I found out from Dr. Sarah Kyle or something like that. Anyway, they have a whole segment on men as residents in senior communities. And I was like, yay, because that can be overlooked. I would say that women are more prevalent and their socialization is maybe easier to accommodate. And it's like, hey, men, what gives you purpose? What do you even feel that you have a purpose? What's going on? What did you do with your family that you would like to see with your peers or in this situation? So I just happened to be watching Abby's show the other day, so I got all the info. Rosalind.
LinkedIn, of course, and I have a website, yourlaunchpad.com. And I just want to leave everyone with, age is not how old you are. It's just how many years of fun you've had. So let's just keep having fun.
Oh, and it's the letter U, the letter R, and then
Right. Your
Launchpad?
Launchpad. That's right.
Okay, I've got that one too. Angie Gray, you're going to be the final act. How do we get a hold of you? Because we are health providers, we are nurses, we are thinking about going into nursing, and we want to be powerful, empowering of others, and we want to fulfill our purpose and not feel squished out.
Thank you. And really my audience is all of that, yes, but more so partnering with senior living organizations to empower their leaders and their nursing teams. So you can also find me on LinkedIn at Angie Gray High Performance Nursing, and then highperformancenursing.com is my website. Thank you all very much for talking about it. Just so much fun listening to y'all and your ideas and the things that you're doing. I love, Ryan, that you said the L word of living. And I think that would also be my L word would be love. To end this all, I think it's what I'm hearing from all of you, and Jack especially, just to love is where we're all the most deeply connected, and at their innermost core, that's what we are. And that's what we're all doing. We're all trying to love. I love Laura. We could go on, but Lori LeMaster's talking about culture. Yep, that's what we should do this again because, we should do this again. This was very good. Thank you all for everything that you said. Thank you. I learned so much. Thank you.
I agree. Isabel Tom, I finally thought of her first name. Isabel Tom wrote The Value of Wrinkles, and she addresses Asian community, her own reluctance, what she feels can be done better. And again, another person who is providing solutions to challenges of the person who is caring about that person, about for the individual themselves to be able to advocate for themselves, going, my background is Asian, and that is what that's where I'm going to feel most comfortable as time goes on. Maybe diagnoses go on, maybe, the great grandchildren are coming. That's my spot. And I heard the same thing for convergence-experience.com when I went down to the local library and said, could we use this area for some curated collaboration time with authors of everything? That she said, make sure that you address our Hispanic community, because we are close to, at least at the high school, close to 50-50 here in Independence, Oregon. And I'm just going, yes, another thing that's important. Oh my goodness, should we be having, it just gets me going of how many things I'm going to do right in 2024, but I'm going to start with the right thing in 2023. Yay! I love you all. Have a great summer. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks,
I'm
everyone.
so glad. Oh.